You should have and should be using tracking numbers in your marketing. The reason for that is so that we can tell what marketing is working, what advertising is working. But the truth of it is, that's just the very first stage in the whole process. There are if you push it, there are 4 different places that you get conversions in your business from your marketing. Let me explain. The first of the conversions that you get will be turning a cold prospect, that is somebody who knows nothing about you, into a lead or a potential customer. And this is where your advertising comes in. This is where your leaflets, where your magazine advertising, where your networking, where your joint ventures come in. These are areas where the people are introduced to you in the first instance, where people find you one way or another, through a leaflet, through a magazine, through a networking event, whatever it happens to be. And that is the first stage that you can get a conversion. And that is literally somebody who knows nothing about you through to them picking up the phone and calling you to request a quote. That is the very first conversion that you can get. And this is why it is important to use things like tracking numbers and tracking URLs, because we move on to the next stage in just a moment. But when you have the tracking numbers and an individual number for your leaflets, an individual number for your magazines, and for the different magazines that you may have promotions and advertisements in, then you know the volume of calls coming in. So you know that if you distribute 1,000 leaflets, you get 4, 5, 10, 15, 20 calls. You know how many calls come in off of the leaflets. You know, so many people say, oh, I've done leaflets and I only got 2 or 3 jobs. And that's the wrong metric. That's the wrong way to look at it. What you need to look at is how many calls came in from the leaflets. How many calls came in from the magazine advertisement? How many calls came in from your networking efforts? Because that is only one conversion metric. I hope you're following along with this. Because the next thing you need to do, once you've got the volume of calls, if you know that when you distribute, let's just pick an example. If you know that when you distribute 1,000 leaflets, you get 25 calls, let's just say, yeah? So you distribute 1,000 leaflets and you get 25 calls, but you only get 1 job. Then it's not that the leaflets don't work. There's something wrong in the next stage of the conversion. And of course, the next stage of the conversion is the turning a lead into a customer, or preparing a quote to be accepted, whichever way you want to look at it. But your next stage is after they've picked up the phone and they've asked you to come out and do a quote for them. You've already converted them from a cold into a lead. Now you need to convert that lead into business. So there's a whole series of things that you can do or that you can control that will assist that. So the tracking numbers help you to monitor, and then the next thing you need to do is work on the conversion from a lead into the customer cycle, if you like. And different things will affect it, as I've said. You know, it could be the paperwork that you supply, it could be the wording in the paperwork, it could be the way you presented yourself when you went to do the quote, it could be your personality, it could be how quickly you respond. There are lots of different things that will affect the conversion at that stage. And then the next thing that you need to convert is when if you're successful and you convert them from a cold call or a cold lead, if you like, into a quote, then you convert them from a quote into a customer. Now, when you've actually got the customer, you need to convert that customer into an evangelist. You need to make that person keep coming back to you time and time again, and you've got to make that person bring other people back to you, but you've got to make them do it happily. You've got to make them want to actually do it. They've got to look at your business and be happy to promote it without you having to tell them that it needs to be promoted. they need to be in a position where they can turn around and say, you know what, I've had the best experience ever with James. As an electrician, I would have no qualms about doing that. I would have no qualms about putting him in front of my friends, my family, my colleagues, and so on and so forth. And that's the next conversion that you need to do. So look at your marketing and look at the tracking numbers, and every stage along the way, where are the conversions breaking down? If you don't have the tracking numbers at the beginning, if you don't have tracking numbers and tracking URLs, and you're recording your emails, your email marketing, if you don't know the volume of calls coming in and where they're coming from, then you can't track the rest of it. So, you know, this thing of saying I've done magazine advertising and I only got 2 jobs from it, or I've done networking and I've got XYZ from it, is no good unless you can go back and look at the volume coming in the first instance. And the only way you can do that is by actually tracking things properly. And this is why I insist on using tracking numbers, because it tells you from the outset, you know, if the advert's not working, we'll know by the volume of calls. So you go out and you do 1,000 leaflets and you get 1 call. Then there needs to be something done with the leaflet, or the way the leaflet is delivered, or the area that is being targeted. But we know that that's where it's breaking down. We know because our tracking number tells us the volume of calls coming in. Now, if there's 20 or 30 calls coming in off of that 1,000 leaflets, we know that the leaflet's working okay. The delivery method is okay. The area is okay. But we're only getting 1 or 2 jobs out of that. So we move on to the next thing. What can we improve? What can we tweak at this stage, at this level? And that may be, you know, let's face it, it may be your personality. It may be your paperwork. It may be the length of time it took you to get the quote out. A number of different things that can be tweaked at that level to convert that lead into a customer. And then once you've got them as a customer, are they recommending you? Are they coming back to you again? And again, there are ways of tweaking there, you know, in terms of the communication that you have with the customer, in the way that you've dealt with the customer, in the way that the job was handed over, your communication. There's all sorts of different things that can be tweaked. But we only know if we start from the beginning, tracking our metrics all the way through and knowing where the conversions are breaking down. So hopefully this helps you to understand why we insist on tracking numbers and how you can work on the conversions stage by stage, rather than sitting back and saying, well, I tried that and I've only got two jobs from it. If you don't know what the volume was coming in, then you don't know where to look at the breakdown. You don't know where the whole system is coming apart.